everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. It look like my thing is very dark here. Oh God. Okay. Let me adjust my light. Thank you all for joining me. We're gonna talk on a subject on how to increase your credit in 90 days or less. So this is what I do on my business channel on Saturdays. We do Q&A and I answer questions, and I want to make sure, okay, the lighting is good. All right. So uh, let me know when you're coming in, just where you guys are coming from. You can just leave your location in the chat, and I welcome each and every one of you. And to start off with what you would do, number one, when you are trying to improve your credit score, it's just like I like to use weight analogies and weight loss analogies. Thank you for joining me, Brandon, for checking in. You always want to make sure that you know where your starting point is. And do me a favor, everyone, when you come in, give me a thumbs up. So when you're losing weight, just like your credit, you need to know your score. What is your starting point? Because if you are trying to improve your credit, depending on where you at, your strategy is going to be much different. So a person that has a lot of weight to lose, their strategy is much different than someone who just have to lose 10 pounds to just get them across to where they want to be. Thank you for joining me, Anonymous. So you want to know where you're at, okay? Because wherever your score is, your strategy is going to be different. So if you are a person that is 680 credit score and you're trying to make it to that 700 mark, you're going to use a different approach than somebody who has, let's say, a 500 credit score or who's below a 580 credit score. So that's what you want to see. You got to be working with valid data to know. Now, one of the ways that you can see where you're starting from in your approach, one referral I have is like Smart Credit. They do have a score builder, which is great because it gives you a metrics. And what it does, and matter of fact, I'm going to put that link in the description, or I'm going to pin it in this video. The great thing, it analyzes your credit for you, because many people, if you're new to credit, a lot of time you don't know what you don't know. So you just know my credit score is a 580 and I don't know, I needed to go up, and you don't even know your own issues because you're new to the situation, or you might not know in depth about credit. So with that, Smart Credit, it has a score builder. It tells you your problems and how to get to a credit score in a certain amount of days. And it will also send out letters for you if you got negatives, and start working on some of those issues and tell you what you need to do. So that's one part. You want to work with, number one, knowing your credit score, where you're at. And if I have to tell people, because a lot of people do not know that basic information, that is 3 major credit bureaus. So you need to know your Equifax score, you need to know your Experience score, and your TransUnion scores. Okay, so you need to get access to all 3 scores to know how you need to improve on your scores. Now, the second part, in general, because everybody have different situations, you want to work with the scale and how you're being judged. Remember, as I always tell you guys, credit is a algorithm based off of your financial behavior. So you need to know as much as possible, because you got to change your behavior. And using the format of losing weight, you know, you can get to be really small if you do the cabbage soup diet, just eat bananas, or a person that might just become vegetarian, and you can lose weight very quickly just by eliminating some things. But if you don't keep suit with those behaviors, you'll be right back from your starting point. So you need to understand how you're being judged and what is the science to produce that score. So when you're dealing with FICO scores, they're number one, they're going to look at payment history, which is 35%. So how did you pay your bills in the past? The second biggest chunk is debt to available credit, which is your utilization. That is 30% of your score and how you're being judged. Age of credit. So how long and the oldest ages of your credit accounts. That is 15%, followed by mix of credit, which is 10%. The data points and what lenders like to see how you handle various types of accounts. So that mix of credit is 10% of your score. And then the other 10% is new inquiries or hard inquiries, as we all like to say. That's 10%. Now, if you are a person that's under a 700 credit score, and for these examples, I'm going to address under 700 credit score, because if you're above a 700, you probably just need to work out some minor things and some adjustments, but that's on a deeper level, and I have courses for that. But the majority of people who's under a 700 credit score, what you need to focus on and know by that system is those two areas, which is payment history is 35% and utilization is 30%. That's 60% of your credit score. Okay, that's the main chunk. If you adjust those areas, if you focus on those areas, you're going to see your score go up. The other two areas three areas you do want to be mindful of, but the first two categories is what's going to affect you majorly, especially if you're under a 700 credit score. People above that have to look at all categories, okay, and how to adjust that. But your first step is what you going to do if you're under a 700 credit score. I tell you guys this all the time. You want to find lines of unsecured credit, because utilization is the quickest way to increase your credit score. A lot of people, since they don't understand that basic system, and financially, they might have not been put in a lot of positions to grasp this concept, that you're being judged as looking as a good business option to get a return on banks' investments, to look from it from that standpoint. What you got to understand, the credit system is for lenders. It is not for you. It's to judge you as a good risk, and am I going to get a return on my investment? And the reason why they like that 30% utilization, which is revolving line of credit versus your debt, because banks make money off of interest. That's their game. They don't have a business if it wasn't for interest, and also some annual fees, but the majority of their money is interest. So if you can grasp that concept, they're there. The game is to make money. It's golden handcuffs. You need to focus on your utilization. Now, here's the point that everybody want to make. I got bad credit. Nobody give me credit. You're in a digital age where you can use Google, and you're going to find somebody that will give you credit, but you got to work within your credit score. And that's what you need to understand. You need to aim to add lines of credit according to your credit score. That's why I said at the beginning, your score is very important. So if you're a person with bad credit and you're 680 and below, I showed you things like extra credit card. It's a debit card, and it adds you a line of credit onto that. So you can use your debit card, and you can also have a line of credit reporting. Now, it does only report to Equifax and I believe to Experian, and they will be launching on to TransUnion. But anytime you add that unsecured line of credit onto your score, you're going to see an increase in your credit score. Now, I should have said this beforehand. One thing, let me back up. Before you add any lines of credit, let me put this disclaimer. If you are a person that have open accounts, let's say you got a car loan and your car loan is behind in payments, any open accounts, you got to bring them current. You got to settle those accounts if it's open. I'm not talking about charge-offs. I'm not talking about collections. But if you got a credit card that is currently open and they didn't charge it off, or it is not a collection and it's dinging your credit every month, for your score to go up, that has to be resolved. So you always have to do that, or nothing will make your score go up. So make sure you do that before you apply these strategies I'm talking about. You got to find a way to bring those accounts current. And so either call them up, see if they can work out a payment arrangement to make the accounts current, or thank you. Please, like Elizabeth said, make sure you guys hit the like button for me. Bring the account current, because anything dinging you every month, unfortunately, you will not see your score go up. It takes 90 days in order for your score to begin to go up, and you can affect it from the last negative item. Also, if you got a new charge off or collection that hit your credit score, you got to wait that 90 days. Now, it's not the same as that open account, because generally with those things, those are closed. So once that negative hits you from the door, you shouldn't see it constantly reporting or hitting you again. So after you wait that 90 days, and sometimes if you play it right, you can wait 60 days and start applying the strategy. Like I said, you can apply for that extra debit card. Also, there's other ways that you can report a line of credit. One of the easiest ways, if you know a family member that can help you by adding you on as an authorized user. That is also a good thing, because it can solve possibly two problems. One problem being utilization and adding a line of credit and giving you positive payment history. So it can satisfy both of those categories. But here's the thing. It's very hard sometimes when you are dealing with other people's credit accounts, because you can't dictate how they use them. So if they ever miss a payment, that will come on you, and you can start all over with that 90-day cycle from the beginning. So you need to judge that person. And if they go beyond using that card more than 30%, it can affect you negatively. So you want to be very particular, or know that person has a great habits when it comes to their credit. And you don't want them to have any late payments prior on that account, because you would inherit that. So using those two strategies. Number one, if you add on an unsecured line of credit, like an extra debit card, to affect your two credit scores, what you're going to do is add that on, wait for it to report, which is on average, I'm just going to say in 30 days, max 30 days for that to report, and you should see an increase in your credit score. Going with that, because it's an unsecured line of credit, just about everybody can get it. So if I'm using this example for these people who have really bad credit scores, and you want to let that sit, if there is a positive side of having a really bad credit score, it's just like losing weight. If you got a lot of weight to lose and you make some adjustments, you see more results than somebody who's closer to their actual normal BMI or body weight. So you will be the recipient for better results because you have a farther way to go. Okay. So adding that on, you should see about on average 49 points, and depending on your problems. So this is a prime example of a big problem people have. They'll just focus on, I got collections, especially people who are suffering with really bad credit. I got collections. Your issue is not majorly your collections. Your issue is you got a big goose egg in that 30% category. That's your issue because it's debt to available credit. And if you got none, zero, then you in the hole. You got more debt and no credit. So you have to start focusing on that. Okay. So you got to get something in that category. So let's go back to high school. We all have hopefully been through high school or some kind of grade school. You're going to have English, math in general, and then you might have gym and some elective that you love. And your GPA, you already know. I don't give a darn how good you are in gym. You dress up every day and you get 100% in that. If you have a goose egg in math, your score is going to be in the basement. Okay. But if your reading or your English and your math is 100% and you bomb out in gym, your score might go down, but it's not going to be highly affected as those other major categories that holds more weight in your score. It's the same thing. So if you're a person that you have really bad credit, a lot of times they don't have any credit cards because you probably went through a situation where you just couldn't pay your bills. And so if you do have a credit card or had one, it got charged off or it's a collection. So you're going to have to put something in that 30% category, because if you don't and you only got debt, you only got student loans, it's a big goose egg. So your problem is there. And people say, well, my payment history is bad. Yeah, you got that issue too. But the quickest way, you can't change the past, the quickest way for you to improve is focus on that utilization and adding positive lines of credit. And what will happen if you put one line there, it'll offset some of that negative stuff that you have, collection, charge off. And so whatever that total of debt is, you want to put a line of credit that is beyond that. So say you have a total of that debt that is, let's say is $300 worth of charge offs. If you get a credit card that's $600 or a credit line that's $600, now you got that your debt to your available debt to available credit that's there that you got that is riding you, you're going to be up at to about 50%. And you want to just make sure you start trying to find lines of credit that you can get approved for, unsecured lines of credit, and you'll see an increase. And then you want to look at particular bank rules that will work with you. So as your credit score increase, you will find banks that will work with your type of credit score. So if you have, I don't care if you got a 725 credit score. I have seen people with a 725 credit score with a collection. American Express is just not going to deal with you. So you want to go with someone who will deal with what you got going on. So let's take, for instance, let's say it's collections in the category of medical debt. You go to American Express, even with a 725 credit score with a medical collection, and that's reporting, they're going to deny you. Okay, that's just how they roll. They're going to deny you. Discover really don't like collections or charge-offs, or definitely collections, open collections or charge-offs, neither. They're going to deny you. Now, we're talking about that's medical, but where I make content, places like Navy Fed, that's a medical bill, that's a charge off. They don't consider that because they're using a different FICO score model. So somebody even with poor credit, or who got a 670 credit score with a collection that will never be accepted by Discover with that medical bill, or even American Express, or other places that have tighter rules like Chase, then you go to Navy Fed, you could you can get credit. You can get larger lines of credit. So it's on understanding these basic principles and how to work it. Now, if I am in a rush of, and I know a lot of people, oh, this is high interest and da 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 da. If you're trying to get your score up, sometimes you can't be picky. Let's just keep it 100. I'm just saying, if you're trying to get your score up and I got to move, I got things I got to do. Sometimes you just got to go with who's going to accept you, because our subject here is talking about the fastest way to get to a 700 credit score. Now, if you got better options, by all means, you always go with your better options. And a lot of that will take research and understanding where you at, to understand, as we started in the beginning, what's your credit problems. But if you're under a 700 credit score, you keep adding unsecured lines of credit, that is going to help your score. The other part about it, it will help build positive payment history moving forward. Now, what I said about that utilization, if you can get a authorized user account, it'll help you both ways. Just like in that example, if you had a lot of charge-offs, a lot of payment problems, say 50% of your accounts, you just got negative late payments there. By adding on an authorized user account, now you're going to inherit their on-time payments, and it can balance out that 35% of negative, because you're adding more positive payments, and then your average from your negative payments with these new positive payments will decrease on how many that you had in comparison of the whole picture. Okay, so that can help you in both ways. The only, like I said, downside, and sometimes you just never know people's situation, and I have consulted with people, and that was their issue. They was an authorized user, and that other person that helped them out start using that account over that 30% mark, and then they see their score tank, because that utilization plays a huge part. Okay, so it can affect you. Now, here's the thing with that. It might not be affecting them like that. That 40% that they're riding that credit line heavy, 40% or 50%, it might not be affecting them, because see, you on the other hand, you don't have many credit accounts. You don't have a bunch of credit cards. They might have accounts. So when you talking about unsecured lines of credit, what they do is take an overall. So, and they ain't count on that average of all your credit lines. So let's say, for instance, if you have a $5,000 credit card with Chase, and let's say Discover, you got a $5,000 credit card, you got $10,000 worth of credit. Okay. So a person that's only using, using $100 of that is only using 1% of that credit line. Now they got two $5,000 credit lines. So if they go over a certain amount with their credit line, it don't bother them. But for you, if that's the only thing that's reporting for you, and you have absolutely nothing and some debt already charged off, it can affect you greatly if you don't have other lines, or if your lines are very limited. You got a credit card, you only got $300, and You got that cleared out, but they're using 60% of the card that you're on, but their other cards is straight. It's only affecting you, because don't get it twisted. There are some people that have really good credit, but don't understand how the credit system works. They just have good habits. My parents was like that. My parents just believed in paying, bills. Certain generations just pay their bills off, and they might have credit cards and they'll use it, and at the end of the month they just going to pay it off because they just don't like debt or having bills. So people that have those kind of mindset, they sometimes the worst thing that happened to those kind of people, to be honest, and this is why you got to learn, sometimes a windfall come to them in life and they have no way, they don't even know how to get out of their situation, because they just had so many good habits, and now that things then got turned upside down, um they don't know how to fix it. They have no app, because they never been on a down and out. They don't know how to get around, work around things, where people who might have had opposition in life or trouble, they have that experience on how to do workarounds. Some people that take that real hard hit, they don't know what to do. So in both realms, you just got to keep in mind, and people like that you're piggybacking off of, hey, oh, good evening, man, thank you for joining me. They might be riding those credit lines and don't know they're affecting you in that way, because they just have no idea how the credit system works. So I have had people that kind of took that personally, and I had to explain that to you. They might not even know that they're negatively affecting you in that kind of way. So if you're experiencing that right now, if you are authorized user on somebody account and your score have dipped, make sure you have some kind of credit monitoring system, and you have to look at how much they're using on that line of credit, because that could be why your score is so low or is not moving. Okay, so that could be why that is happening. Thank you for joining me, Miss Williams. Thank you so much. Oh, Miss Williams is awesome. She has supported me down the years. So always just keep that in mind. Utilization. If you got issues, focus on your utilization first. If your score is below 700, even above, always start with utilization. People say, "Oh, you start to dispute." That's a lie from the pit of hell. Focus. If you want your quickest way to get that score up, focus on that utilization. Always start there. Another big thing, why a lot of people score, they'll say, "Hey, what you're saying ain't working. I pay them my cards and I pay them on time." You got to look at when you're paying them. Timing is always important, because utilization is the fastest way to make you or break you. Okay. So some people do pay their cards off every month, but when are you paying it off? There's your statement date and there's your reporting date. So many times you have to be very disciplined, and I get it, because I have been there, and you don't mean to. Sometimes if your income is limited, you might be timing your paycheck. Say if your rent is due on the first of the month and you got a card that is due on the fourth, you thinking like, well, I just pay my card on my second paycheck when I have the funds to do that. But no, that's reporting on the 5th, and your pay week is on the 15th. The reason why you always seeing that you're not seeing a change is because it's not updated, that card is being paid off. Now, if you go, because many people do that and then they'll go to use it again. They might use that card because their financial situation is tight, so they need to get by with that card. You need to start focusing on changing the pay schedule with all your credit cards, okay? You want to make sure if it's staggered to make sure, okay, if I need to use a card, I need to go for that card that due date is on the 24th if it's the 28th of the month, because that's already reported. And the ones on the 4th that's reporting, either I need to pay that down or don't. Once it get paid down, don't use that at all, because I have a lot of people that go through that cycle and they'll say, I always pay my card down and I don't never see nothing. It's the timing. So you have to, this is why I tell you, for you to ultimately cure your credit, it's going to become from education. Credit repair and all that garbage is not going to help you if you don't educate yourself. The name of the game is your credit habits. Credit is just an algorithm based on your behavior. Thank you for joining me, Tiffany. I appreciate it. It's just based off your behavior. So you gotta know how to financially behave. Okay, you have to know how the system works, how to move in the matrix. And if you start learning this stuff, you can use this towards your advantage, actually, to win. But it takes knowledge. I know a lot of people like, well, I don't have time for what you be talking about your content. Well, that's why your credit gonna stay jacked up. It is what it is. Because if you have that type of disposition in life, you ain't gonna never learn nothing. And even if you make some headway, you'll be right back searching people's stuff, looking on what you can do, paying Lexington Law and everybody else, and just going nowhere. Just absolutely going nowhere. So that's just gonna be what your life is. And it ain't really so much them folks' fault. What it is that you really just, they just made a system off of people with bad behavior. That's just it. They making millions off of you because you refuse to learn. They don't tell you what I'm telling you from the jump. That's not their business model. Their business model is to sit there for a lot of credit repair companies and get you to pay a monthly service to dispute. They don't tell you what I'm telling you. You go to add credit from the door. Make sure you stop the bleeding with your current accounts and then start to build your credit. And you can dispute at the same time if that makes you feel well. But one thing they know, most people, if they see that score go up, you're going to let them go because you're going to see you're making progress. And this is the thing. So always focus on utilization. If you have a problem with your credit, do you have a credit card? That's number one. Most people with really, really trouble, bad credit, they went through a bad situation and they don't have any credit cards. That's going to be a major problem for you. You have to, in that 30% category, you can't have a goose egg. Because just like the high school example, you're going to be failing because that's a goose egg. That's zero. So you got to put something in that category. You got to add some unsecured lines of credit. Once you add that one unsecured lines of credit, like the example, that extra credit card, then you go on and find another unsecured line of credit. Like I said, it just report to Experian and Equifax. So people are like, well, what about the TransUnion part? Common sense then. I mean, for me, common sense. I'm just going to apply with people that got Equifax and Experian. If I go to my next options, where I am landing with my credit score, that's not hard. That's just not hard to do. You can just research it. Hey, where do these people pull from? Go and Google. Where does these people pull from? What? TransUnion, skip that. Next one. Where do they pull from? Experian. Okay, I know my credit score over here. Then once you add the one that worked with the Experian, now that one's going to report to your Equifax. And now you work from there. So One thing you have to do is learn how to work outside the box. A lot of this strategy, I'm giving you general principles, but you got to tailor make it to you. Okay? You got to make it work for you. Okay? So it's just like, ladies and gentlemen, you might like a certain outfit, but you shaped a certain way. So, somebody who's very thin, that dress might look good, but it ain't gonna look the same on your body type. You might say, I gotta pull it in, take it out. I'm tall. I know certain things. Oh, that's nice. Capris. I love those pants. But because I'm very tall, that ain't gonna land for me like that. That's gonna look like capris. Okay. And it might still look good, but it's not gonna be one size fit all. You gotta make sure it works for you the way it's gonna work for you. And you gotta think. Like, a lot of people want somebody to spoon feed them. And this is why, if you let people spoon feed you, you might get some arsenic down the line. Start thinking about things and knowing how does this pan out? Do these things pan out that way? So you got to do a little research for yourself. So once you add that one basic credit line, you let it report. Don't do too much. Don't say, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. Same thing with the losing weight. You do too much, your body stall out. So do the algorithm. Do one step at a time. Let one thing report and then then add the next one. Because what you're going to do is up your score, and it's going to open more doors for you. Okay, so you always want to stick with this formula if you're trying to get it done in 90 days. Also, if you can find unsecured lines of credit through authorized users, time it right. Let that initial line report, wait. Don't sit there and say, hey, I'm going to get my mama too. I done applied for that, because people have done that. I have done that. That's how I know the algorithm done. And you be mad. You be like, wow, I got an increase, but I was expecting a lot more. What you do, even if you do an authorized user account, let that first count report. All right. Then add the authorized user, and boom, it'll on the next month or whenever it reports. Sometimes it's not necessarily the next month. It depends on when that person card report, that report date. So, different companies, they might need only a 7-day window and throw you on there, and then it'll report for you. Just let it report. Then you see an increase. Then you go on to the next unsecured line of credit on where you are from there, and look at the rules and add that. You can ride that wave all the way to a 700 credit score. All the way. I just saw somebody say, well, I'm at 699.99. Add you an unsecured line of credit. That's it. It's just not hard. You can jump on as an authorized user, look at all your credit scores across the board, and what you do is go and work that credit line to add an unsecured line of credit. So, for instance, say this happens a lot. You might have one credit report that don't report a collections that you got on the other two. If that is the case, and you like everything else, I just don't have no credit cards or whatever, that's the score. When you're going to apply, you're going to look for those banks right there. Okay. So that's what you're going to work. You're going to try to work that one. If that's not possible, then you're going to have to look for credit lines that's going to be obtainable with one of the other credit scores. Okay. That maybe that will accept that collection. And then when it reports to all three, then you try to work that credit report with nothing on it. So, like I started off, you want to know your credit scores. You want to know what's reporting on your scores. And you want to work, if it's possible, the strongest score to get you those unsecured lines of credit. That's just the name of the game, and that's going to get you to the 700 credit score and possibly above. Once you get there, you can start working, if you choose, on those negative items. If you choose, you can start doing that then, or while you going through this process, start working on those negative items. Okay, so that's the way you're going to go. One thing you want to do, if you have 3 credit scores and you have a huge variation in your scores, let's say 50 to 60 points difference. If y'all don't know, I haven't seen somebody with the same credit score across the board. You're always going to have a lower mid score. When one is in the middle, one is the highest, and one is the lowest. But if you have a variation in those scores, 50 to 60 points, just know from the door, it's something reporting on there that's not reporting on the others. Now, one of the main culprits that could be is your inquiries. I don't know. To me, it's just, a common knowledge, but what's knowledge to me might not be knowledge to you. Many of times, and just about all the times with credit, they're going to pull from one bank. I mean, one bureau. Okay, so if you're going for credit cards, what I have found, the majority of times they're going to pull from Experian. Okay, so a person might say, hey, wow, my Experian score is really low. I don't know why my Experian score is low. Look at your inquiries, because if you've been going around applying for credit, a lot of lenders use Experian. Okay, because one thing about Experian, they update often, like every couple of days. So they will use a lot Experian. Okay, so you might need to check that. If you got a big variation, look at your hard inquiries. I would start there first and then see if it's some collections or even a charge off that is reporting there that might not be reporting on the other. Another place you will start, if you check those off and said that's not it, look at your payments, your late payment history. Many a times you will see they're not reporting the same. Okay, so you might have say an account that had one late payment on Experian or 2 late payments on Experian, and they ain't reporting nothing on Equifax. That is 100%. Now, a lot of people won't tell you this. Sometimes you got to choose your battles, okay? Because sometimes if you go disputing that, or say the other 2, it's just one, and you actually do have those late payments, that company might just go ahead and update them when they reach that, and update that like, well, whoa, actually, it is, they got multiple late payments, and you might jack up your other 2. I'm just saying, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. What? I'll dispute everything. No, you don't dispute without knowledge. If I tell people, if you're disputing late payments, you go for the oldest late payment where they don't have a lot of history on that. So one that's the oldest one, if it's 2015, 2018, go for that one, the latest one, not the most recent. You don't, because what you can do is get your other ones that's not hit up, that on that. That's why I tell y'all I don't really chase late payments like that. And a lot of people, well, they just updated that. Okay, did you miss it? Yeah. Well, your only avenue, which I would go, if it's reporting on all of those, by all means, attack it. You ain't got nothing to lose but everything to gain. But this is why you need to review your reports. I have seen that time after time again. There could be one or two of them that ain't reporting like that. You really got more late payments than what they're saying on those reports over there. So let's say Experian only reporting on that account one late payment, but TransUnion got two late payments and you was really too late, and Equifax might not have one at all. Well, I just pick my battles. I'll leave that alone, especially if it was over 2 years ago. I ain't monkeying with it. I'm just going to leave it alone because you're going to get more of a negative effect by touching that because you might decrease all your credit scores. So you always want to work what you got, okay? And what you want to always do is examine those, all three of them, and add that unsecured line of credit, and you can get yourself to 700, and then, or at the same time, start attacking collections and charge-offs. That's what you want to do. I'm just going to throw this in. I try to separate collections and charge-offs differently, and these are two totally different subjects, but for me, there is. I just want to make it clear for y'all. When you're dealing with charge-offs, if it's something that's 200, because I have seen somebody dispute or pay 2 years, a freaking credit repair company, to keep attacking a charge-off that was $200. And they paying like $89 a month. Bruh, just go ahead and settle that. Why would, they removed it and it keep coming back on and it keep coming back on. It just fall and come back. Why you ain't settle that? You're like, so sometimes you just gotta apply common sense. I ain't spending $89 a month to just go ahead and remove something I could even if I pay that as a paid charge off, and it's been 2 years. If I would have did that 2 years ago, that would have been closed and my score gonna go up. Sometimes a lot of people I want the 850 credit score. You might never get there. Okay, I'm just gonna be real, because life can happen. Okay, you might never get there. So you need to work to your best advantage, not being focused on that credit score. Try to use that credit score to get you where you're going in your goals. I mean, that's just common sense to me. So if I can, as you can, get a house I got some decent income, and I can get a house with a 650 credit score. Oh, but you paying a higher interest rate. I got an asset. What you talking about? I got an asset. Once I get it and get my hands on it, I can refinance that to change that interest rate. A lot of people are to me, are it's like, so you just gonna sit there and just throw away rent for the rest of your life and get nothing until you get to this 850 credit score, allegedly? That's what you gonna do? And you not benefiting for no equity nowhere? And you could have got in that thing while your income good before you lose that job. Because don't say you might not lose that job. I got a good job, maybe not for long. I had a good job too at Ford for a good 7 years. Okay? And I was making like over 90 grand. But guess what? We all know what happened to the auto industry. And not that I got fired. It wasn't to my best interest to keep moving from state to state in order to keep a job. So I had my hand on assets before I lost that job. Okay? Or before I took a buyout from that job. Okay? So what I'm just telling you, a lot of people are searching for perfection, but at the same time, to me, you're not gaining nothing in life. It's a lot of people, they want to have a pissing contest. Well, this is my credit score. What is that credit score doing for you? That's what I'm interested in. That's all I'm just saying. If I got a person with a 580 credit score, and they done got a house and making some money in business, and you got 850 and you're renting somewhere. I don't care if it's a luxury apartment and you ain't got nothing. Who am I more impressed with? And you wearing Gucci and Louis. Let's just add that in. You adding. I'm more impressed with the person with the 580 credit score, because they actually worked what they had and got their hands on something. Okay, they actually got some assets over here in this column. So don't ever, because this is my business and finance. I already told y'all I'm only here, and I wouldn't give two rats patootie about credit if it didn't get me my hands on assets. That's all I'm just saying. That's where I started to be a landlord as a single mother. And I just worked the system. And guess what? At that time, my credit score wasn't very high. It might have been like a 650, 660. And people, I got an FHA loan. You'll hear a lot of people, you're paying PMI, but I got into a home, an asset that's worth how much now that I'm in on some equity. That's the thing. So you want to work your score to get assets to put you in a better position. It ain't about flexing on whoever. I don't care who you. Some people, like when I talk about big lines of credit, the reason why I tell y'all big lines of credit, because people are suffering because they have small credit lines, okay? And like I keep telling you, big lines of credit, because the system is focused on that 30% is debt to available credit. Having larger available credit can keep you out of trouble. It can keep your credit score maintained. If you got a $25,000 credit card compared to a person with a $300 credit card, they can see their score dip way before you. Okay. So for me, having a bigger credit line, I might can finance myself. That's when things start. Some people like, oh, rewards. Yeah, rewards is great for those who are disciplined. Rewards are wonderful if you're disciplined. If you haven't got discipline, what the heck is rewards doing for you? I'm just saying, if you're not disciplined, you can get ate up in interest. So you have to have that kind of mind. If you're just trying to lick the game and I'm just trying to get in there, you don't have to worry about all of that. Yeah, you want to stay focused, like, okay, I need to get there. I don't want a lot of high interest. But if I gotta make my score pop, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, because I'm trying to change my situation. That's all I'm saying. That's the type of person. It's always, you got to figure out, you got to weigh some things. Yo, which one is going to get me in a better situation right now? So take, for instance, and I'm using this as an example. We all know First Premier is terrible in interest. But if you started there and now you got big credit lines, but you're over a 700 credit score and this and that, but that card that was your starter credit card, is it in your best interest? When I said age of credit is a big 15% chunk, and if you're over 700 credit score, do I ditch that card? You could, but that's some decisions you're going to have to make. Your score might take a hit. Now, how much is your score going to take a hit? If I'm at a 680 credit score, should I ditch that? No, you shouldn't ditch that. No. Why would you do that? You're not even in a good position to ditch that. At a 725, should I ditch that? No. I wouldn't. If you ain't got nothing else on there, like a mortgage account that you've been rocking for years, or another credit card account. Now I can see, another credit card account. Why would you do that? I don't get that. Nah, if you had 750 and you okay with dropping down to a 720 possibly, If you can live with that, that's fine. I mean, and it might not really splitting hairs depending on what you're doing in life. It might get you where you're going. Who knows? If you already own a home and you like, well, I'm not going for funding in a home, and I got a home and all I need is a whip. You can get a whip with a 720 credit score if that's what you want. That's not going to really affect you like that, and that's just how you do. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, everything is how you seeing it. You always want to place strategy. You always want to put yourself, when it really comes down to credit, to get assets, to put yourself in a better position. And me and my daughter was having this conversation. Here's the conversation. I'm African American, and we were debating back and forth about certain things in history. All right. And what I said, we won't get deep into politics, but I'm going to tell you this. If politicians wanted to cure your problems, the first thing they would want to do, if folks love folks so much on both sides, number one, you use credit more than a lot of this math that they taught you. They would put credit and certain financial stuff as a base curriculum if it was made for you to win, if people really cared about you. Because if nobody told you, majority on how wealth is passed through this country for anybody is by owning your home. Owning your home. That is how most wealth is built and passed on. So to my African Americans, and like me and my daughter was breaking down, most of the time when I was going to high school in the 90s, what was told was to go to school, go get student loans. And then nobody really explained it to you. They just told you you got to have a college degree in order to make it in life. That's just how it was pitched to me. I don't know. But none of the teachers and nobody explained to you about debt. Nobody explained to you about that. So I want to pose this question to you. If you are coming from a family, which most people are, they're their own generational, most of them are, and your mother, your father, nobody in or father, nobody have any wealth, right? Or like own homes, any assets, and zero, right? Your parents' net worth is zero because you don't own anything. Zero. If you now net worth is zero, and to make $35 an hour, you go to get in student loan debt for 100 grand. Are you really up? Are you really up? Or are you negative 100,000? I need y'all to really assess that and how you're teaching your kids. Are you negative 100,000? Hold on 1 second. This is mine. You didn't have any wealth anyway. Hold on. Live. So you didn't have wealth anyway. So now you're in 100 grand worth of debt. And you can't qualify a lot of y'all from homes because of that debt. And on top of that, that income that you're making is paying towards that debt, and that debt has interest. Okay, so think about that. Now, think on the opposite end. Say if somebody would have educated you to say, don't do that. Even if you can get a regular job and go get a home from the dough without that debt, because a lot of people have lullabied y'all to sleep that you just that principle, you got to have an 850 credit score. No, with FHA, you just got to have a job for a year. If you come out of college, you got to have a job for 6 months and 3% down on the cost of that home, and your income have to be able to afford that home. You can get a home. that's now valuable. You're going to have equity that you can build. And so what happens is, what's the difference between you and that person? Emergency. Hold on one second. Diamond. Okay, she's not there. But I'm going to wrap this up because I might be having an emergency. But what that person can do for their children that has that home, they can leverage. What you can do is leverage that equity to pay for that child's education. Even better, that child can go to a 2-year school and be able to pay for that. Okay. And you would be able to get financing far as FAFSA and other things in order to pay for that education and then transfer to a 4-year college where you won't have the same amount of debt. So your first thing for African Americans is to switch up your mindset. You need to focus on owning your home. Stop throwing money away. You don't have to do what I did. You don't have to be an investor, but just owning your own home. Look at the rent and inflation. Right now, in certain areas, rent, even if you got a 1-bedroom, and Jersey is like that, you're probably not going to catch that, but for one bedroom for $1,500 a month, what is that going to look at in 10 years? What is that going to look like for you in 10 years? Are you going to be able to afford that? I don't care if you're making $100,000 a year. What portion of that is going to go in the future to your rent? Okay, so think about that. What you can do is, period, buy a home. It will lock in your mortgage rate, and then you can go ahead and benefit from your equity. And you said Los Angeles is like 1,900, and it's about the same in Jersey. That 1,500 is you find 1,500 for 1 bedroom. Jump on that one. It's so you're not going to be able to keep suit. And what I'm telling you, places like Los Angeles, Jersey, more rent control, y'all gonna have harder problems. It just is what it is, because more people going to sit still, like New York City. They're not going to move because of the rent control. The units are not going to come available because people going to have to stay put where they are. And places like LA and New York, that East Coast, some of these major cities are magnets for other people coming from everywhere. You will be replaced. They don't want you. They don't care. You gonna be replaced. Don't worry about that. Because Washington, some of these places, they got an influx of people that constantly come in. So you will be replaced. Where is that gonna put you? You're gonna either go out, bow out gracefully, where you can own a home, or you're gonna get pushed out. And you're gonna be in a bad situation when you get pushed out, because you're gonna have a eviction on your record, and it's going to make it tighter for you. So think about that. Your main focus needs to be home ownership. And a lot of people, the homes in this area, leave your area, boo. Listen, what I got to say, get up out the area. You got to figure out how you got to do what you got to do. But around here, don't care. Invest somewhere else. Get something done, or invest somewhere else. Flip that and go here, cash out on that home and pay over there. Take that down payment and put it over there. But if you're not careful, all these other people are bailing. And some of y'all that's sitting out in these other states that's chilling, these folks coming your way. And a lot of them coming your way is the ones with the equity that they smart enough to cash out, and they your competition. They paying rent a year up front. They paying your home prices. Why it's going up, Florida? Because they coming down there with cash. They done sold those homes, and now they done became your competition. And like you said, and if you work in 100% remote, they go other places to buy homes. A lot of people will go other places, and you do your research where you want to go to buy homes and home prices. But a lot of these people are coming your way. Even if you're in a market that's lower, better go ahead and lock you in something. You better some housing for sure. You better lock yourself into something, because some of these people are coming from other areas and they got cash because they done sold those homes in these other areas, and now they can outbid you. And you're going to have a rude awakening, because the prices that they are used to, you're not used to that. And this is what's happening in Austin. Some of these areas, some of y'all going to be pushed out. A lot of that I'm hearing is happening in Atlanta. We know all over Florida is just getting walloped, and people now coming down there. The poor people that's been there, poor residents that's been there. I'm not saying poor, but I'm just saying the poor residents that's used to certain prices, now they're seeing a significant jump. And Florida was like in a hole for how long? And you should have got a home. But don't take for granted, if you in a place with cheap rent, you better get your ducks in a row. And that's across the board. You better get in on you a home while you can. Because if you can control your cost of living, then all the rest of it, you not pressed like that, okay? Like you said, playing them struggle Olympics. You better stop with these folks, okay? Because a lot of these people, a lot on both sides, honey, they in the business of you owning nothing. That's how they stay in office. I'm just telling you. They don't want you to own nothing, because once you don't own nothing, you won't see life on the other side. Trust me, taxes don't matter to somebody that's renting. Property taxes, but you're being affected by it. And that's what they won't tell you. They'll tell you, oh, it's the landlord that's doing it. But what they don't tell you in places like Jersey, if the landlord paying $10,000 a year in taxes, or $12,000, and they paying a G a month in taxes, what they gonna do? They gotta pass that cost on to you. They're not even making money off of that. So it's pushing your rent up. That's what they not telling you. Your utilities, they lying to you, because they want you to be a slave, because you're gonna have to vote my way, or you're gonna lose your housing. And if you become so dependent on somebody else, I tell people all the time that follow me on Facebook, let me tell you something. Be weary of people that always want to give you chitlins and never keep the hog alive. You need to question that. Well, why can't I have my own hog? Why can't I start a farm? I don't want your chitlins all the time. Why? Oh, no, you get a bunch of chitlins all you want. Chitlins for every pot. But I can't get the whole hog? Oh, no, well, we ain't going to do it. Why don't we just put me in business over here? Why can't I just start my own farm? Just give me one hog, and if I get a second one, then I just produce my own hogs, and I can make some money. No. If I want to cure your problems, I would do that. I mean, that's all I'm just saying. Nowadays, corporate landlords are the first-time home buyers. Yep, and you absolutely right. I'll go ahead pitching you out. Corporate landlords are the ones that small landlords are selling to and record numbers. Think about that. They selling to, ditching, and people just gliding on with their money, because some of these policies, some people gonna wake up and they're gonna get a notice that it's time for you to move, because your small landlord done sold to a corporate one, because some of your politicians done put the squeeze. And put it like this. Some of this is planned, because guess what? A lot of that PPP money and that went to big corporations to buy you out, okay? They know what they're doing, to buy certain people out. They got money to buy this. They're getting it free. And now they're your competition. So I'm just saying, there's a wave coming. If you need to get your home, just cut the crap. Cut all the other stuff, what they saying about schools and everything else. Look, first get you a home. Focus on that. My parents always preach that. Get you a house. If they ain't preach nothing else, y'all need y'all a house. Get you a house. Start building some equity. Because down the road, 20 years or whatever, I'm guarantee you, that needs to be your first move. Stop letting these people push you in college debt to be somebody else's slave. All right, because some of y'all getting hit with this interest and you can't see your way out. Some people $200,000 in student loan debt and you're not even working in that field whatsoever. And now with technology, even if you had a real valid field that you went to school with, technology is changing that so quickly. So you got to think about different ways of doing things. And one of the biggest culprits is the student loan debt. So that's just my warning to people. The student loan debt, especially African Americans, focus on buying homes. Okay, focus on that. Don't forget all this other stuff. Try to tap in to owning your home so you can have some equity. They're closing the doors, and it's going to be real tough for a lot of folks, especially if you don't own a home and you can't sell no home, to pull the equity out to put down on your next home. Okay, I'm just telling you. Instead, you said in ATL, some landlords are not taking Section 8 vouchers. It's a mess. In Florida, rent is rent is 1,500 and up to 2,200. Yep, giving old people 250K for their homes worth over 550K. Section 8 places been sold, and this is absolutely right. A lot of these landlords with vouchers, it's just not, and all these things don't the bad part, because I'm a landlord. I'm telling you, not telling it all, but I'm telling you. What happens is with vouchers, they're up in some rules, and it's just not making it somebody's worthwhile to even deal with that. I'm just going to keep it 100 with you, because a lot of these rules they putting in place, you can deal with somebody that don't have that voucher, and you ain't got to be bothered with inspections. You ain't got to be bothered with this and that, and certain rules they're putting in place. People are not touching it. Why do you have to when it's so much competition? They just not going to. And then even if they say, oh, well, you're forced to do this, all they're going to do is just make the rules so high that it wipes you out anyway. Okay, so let's say somebody that is on a Section 8 voucher and they're talking about 3 times the income. You can't fit into that, because to have that voucher, in certain areas, you're already locked at a certain income anyway. And a lot of them know that. Oh, that's all they got to do. I'm looking for 3 times the income. And you out the game. You see what I'm saying? Or you're pushed exclusively to certain areas. So just think about that. So a lot of this, the more stuff is putting into place, it's going to get worse for those that are stuck on system-based things. What's going to happen in certain areas? The government is just going to build projects, and folks going to be pushed there. And I'm not saying like literal projects that we known back in the days, but what we know of it, government housing, and you and a lot of people you might not want to live around going to be there. Okay, so we used to have a saying. What they say was the gates and the walls around the projects to keep people out or to keep you in. That's how it's about to get now, because it's just you're going to look like San Francisco and this and that. Some of y'all areas y'all in is going to be gentrified, and you're going to be pushed out. It just is what it is. You're going to be pushed out, and if you wise, you need to beat that. You don't need a high credit score. You just don't need debts, and you need to make some money If you got student loans, to override what your debt is to qualify for a home, and just work on those areas. But you need to get yourself some permanent housing. So I hope that is helpful for people. Um, I'm going to answer y'all questions next week. I think I have an emergency brewing. I have some family calling me in, so I want to make sure everything is good. I am so sorry, you guys, but I got my daughter calling me and my father, and that usually equals something is going on. So I will see you guys next week. If you can do this, just once this ends, put your questions in the comment section, and I promise y'all I will answer your questions. So drop them down in the comment section, and I will answer your question. Thank you so much, Celeste. I hope all is well too. So please just drop your comments in the just put your questions in the comment section. All right, everyone. God bless. Be safe.